Member Jason Meister and Policy Director for America First and former Senior Policy Advisor to President Trump, Curtis Ellis. Okay, let's start with this. Hate crime. Get this. Hate crime charges have been filed against a man and a woman seen on camera in California trying to paint over a Black Lives Matter mural. The pair were caught in the act by a group of BLM supporters. Listen to part of the exchange here.
Don't have a run-in with the law and don't resist arrest, it won't be a problem.
That's not what's happening. They literally kneeled on that poor black man's.
No, nobody agrees with that. I don't agree with that. Wrong.
Okay, so then?
That was wrong.
Why are you painting over Black Lives Matter if you said that was wrong?
All lives matter.
No, they don't. Until Black Lives Matter, all lives don't matter.
All lives do matter.
No, they don't.
They don't? Then explain why don't all lives matter?
Okay, so Curtis, here's what I'm wondering. Why was it okay? This is a public street, right? Why is it okay for them to put on BLM? I don't care if you support them or can't stand them. Why is that any more allowed than these people coming in saying, we don't want this here? Now they're charged with a hate crime on top of defacing a so-called mural. I don't get that.
Facing a so-called mural. This is nuts. I wonder, is this a good use of public funds? This was supposedly a publicly funded, publicly approved, permitted mural in the middle of a street. I question the idea, the intelligence and the wisdom of that. I hope they weren't using taxpayer money to paint the street. And here's my question. If this is a hate crime, vandalizing this mural, well then, all the people who are vandalizing statues of Christopher Columbus, which we were told are monuments to white supremacy, they should be charged with hate crimes too, hate against white people.
I am flummoxed by this. I mean, we've got this cancel culture going, Jason, and I don't know where it stops. I mean, you actually have a movement now to cancel the canceling, that we're going too far. I think J.K. Rowling was even coming out saying, hey, hold on, this is getting carried away. First of all, why can't people just disagree?
Yeah, it's really a travesty. And, you know, I think that this whole sort of movement that's happening, the cancel culture, and you saw the president talking about it at Mount Rushmore, the erasing of our history and our heritage. I think that this is what this election is really about. I think that, you know, it's not just America that's under attack, our nation, but it's our American core values that are under attack: family, work ethic, the right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the sanctity of life. I mean, these are the core American values. These are uniquely American values, and they are what made this country great. And I think what you have to understand is, under the radical left, which Joe Biden will pave the way for, there's an incoherent and incompatible set of values that this country will not be recognizable if they succeed.
Heidi, you know something I haven't heard probably 2 weeks, and that is the name George Floyd.
Well, I mean, exactly. And we've said several times now, ever since even that horrible incident happened, not far from where I am right now, the branches and the strange way that discussion, which was a very well-intentioned, I believe, discussion that should have been had about race relations and within the police departments and how all of these things are being handled by way of procedure. The tentacles that have gone off in all these different directions now just don't make any sense. Even the Floyd family themselves said that. This is what they are about. So I'm not sure how we move forward, but you can't really blame one side and not the other, right? With the hate crimes, I mean, we know that the Justice Department is going to be going over all of the different footage from the monuments, and I do believe that they are going to try their hardest to track down the people who desecrated and tore down these monuments. But that's a long process, right, Curtis? I mean, that's another one, taxpayer money, going back and trying to prosecute all of these people.
Well, they used to bring people up on charges of crossing state lines to incite riots. I expect that we will see some of that, and there should be. Look, there's only one way to enforce law and order, and that's to make criminals pay. You brought up a good point about having a discussion, an honest discussion about police brutality and police procedures and racism. You can't have an honest discussion if you're only allowed to have one point of view.
And Curtis, I agree. And let me read you, I went to the Black Lives Matter website today, and here's one of the things they say on it. We know that police don't keep us safe. And that's the premise they're operating from.
Full rise in shootings.
I'm sorry?
I say, tell that to the people in New York City who've seen shootings shoot up.
Absolutely. Yeah, and how'd that work out, Jason, in Seattle when they got rid of the cops in that area for Chop?
Yeah, make no mistake. I mean, this is a cultural revolution. It's a Marxist group. It's a radical left group, just like Antifa. And people get caught up in the names and the logos, Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. But this organization is a radical group. And we need to call things out for what they are in order to fix the problem. And if you don't call things out for what they are, you can't fix it.
Yeah, Heidi, it seems like these folks have commandeered the Black Lives Matter brand, if you will, and now they've expanded it way beyond what all of us agree in the George Floyd situation needed a serious conversation.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I would like to hear from the guests, too, in thinking about, gosh, if this is the type of conversation that we're having right now, how different is it going to look after the election? Because it sure seems like there is a lot of discussion that is so fractured and so not really about what could be good for our country, which could show progress for our country. After the election, what are we going to be looking at?
Curtis, we've got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm concerned that if Biden and that crowd wins, we're going to see the institutionalization of this prosecution of hate crimes. Went on another network's website, and the banner says, silence is not an option. Well, what that means then, if we don't post sufficiently endorsement of Black Lives Matter on our Facebook page, we could be prosecuted for hate crimes and civil rights violations.
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It said silence is violence. Sorry, it said silence is violence. I never really understood that either, right?
Yeah, I think bad cops need to be held accountable, but for goodness sake, beyond that, we need police departments. It's just such common sense. I don't know how we got to this point where it's not. So we're going to come back with more of American Agenda after this.
Welcome back, everybody, to American Agenda on a very busy news day. In fact, quite a bit of news coming out of Washington, D.C., which often occurs, obviously. In fact, we're going to try to take a live shot now, if we can. We know that President Trump is hosting the Mexican president today. They'll be talking about a number of issues, and one of the most important ones to many people who are watching this as it takes place is the USMCA, which is the trade agreement that President Trump is putting into place. And they'll be celebrating the way that this has come together, and we'll be learning more about how that affects you, how it affects me moving forward and away from formerly known NAFTA. So we've got that. Also, boy, America, it's opening back up. And there's a lot of questions that comes with that. You know, we're seeing some people go back to work, right, Bob? And we're seeing the school year come closer and closer. And definitely today, I think that is the crux of the conversation. It really relates to everyone who has kids and to teachers and administrators. You know, how do we do this safely and keep the kids from being confused or scared or anxious about getting back to school?
You got to have them safe. And a lot of people worried about how that unfolds. And the president is pushing for school districts to open up, go 5 days a week. And then you have places like New York saying, we're going to open up, but we're going to go 2 days a week. And then we're going to have online.
Right.
And so, Jason, this has become a political football. Going to school is now a political football.
It is, and it's unfortunate because it is time to reopen the schools in the fall. It's critical to parents as well. I mean, they have to get back to work. You know, the children learn a lot better in the social setting, you know, socializing with their friends and their teachers. And, you know, look, I have a kindergartner, I have a preschool student. I have been tutoring them. I have tutors that I've paid for to come to the home and social distance and teach them. But I think that you have to open up the schools. When you look at coronavirus and the hospitalizations and the death rates, I know the media, all they want to talk about is the new positive cases. But when you look at the death rates and the hospitalization rates, rates. They've been down for 10 weeks straight. So, they're down 92.4% since April. So I think it's really important to open up those schools. The Academy of Pediatrics put out a report and explained this very in detail. That was 67,000 pediatricians that are saying that we should open up the schools. So I think it's time to open up the schools. And I know Joe Biden, he's in the pocket of the teachers union. So he's not putting American families, children, and parents first. But it's time to open up the schools.
Heidi, here's what bothers me. Everybody wants to go back to school. Well, virtually everybody. Maybe some people don't. But those of us who are parents sure want them to go back to school. But the questions have not been answered. Do they need to put on masks? Are they going to socially distance? Are they going to stay in the same classroom? Did teachers move instead of the kids moving? What happens when somebody tests positive? Because they will. Do you have the whole school stay out? Is it just the classroom? Is it just their friends? Nobody is answering those questions right now. So while you have this push to get back in school, and everybody knows that it's easier for parents to go back to work when they know their kids are taken care of, I hear all this talking, but I don't hear a lot of answers.
Yeah, I think they're building all of this right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're putting together these protocols. We know that the CDC is going to be coming out with their new guidelines sometime next week. It'll probably be a bounce off of that. Hopefully the teachers unions will get on board. I do know a lot of teachers. I know your wife is a teacher. Vice President Pence's wife is a teacher. Anecdotally, at least, the teachers want to get back to the classroom, I think, too. They miss their kids. It's such a tough discussion, but clearly this is where everything is centering right now, because we're getting close. Yeah. We're really having to plan for this coming up in late August for some kids and September. Jason, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important for the country. I think that, it's time to open up the businesses. I think that you see in states that opened up early on, you're seeing a rise in some of the cases. But again, the rise in cases is not what we should be concerned about only. We should be concerned about hospitalizations and death rates, which have dropped precipitously over the last 10 months, even with cases, positive cases.
Hospitalizations have not dropped, but definitely we've seen the fatality rate. And let's get Curtis in this conversation also. Curtis, I think everybody's agreeing that you got to get back in school to get back to any kind of normal back-to-work environment.
No, absolutely. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is so much now is the politicization of science. We saw this with the World Health Organization, that's been totally corrupted and compromised. But unfortunately, this is also going on with the CDC as well. It's become a political, bureaucratic organization. Honestly, you look at the figures, young children have very little risk from this disease. Even if they get infected, they're asymptomatic and they don't pass it. You look at a lot of these essential workers, right? The healthcare workers, their children were in daycare for the last 6 months. We have data. Mm-hmm. Look at the experience of daycare. The kids aren't spreading it to each other and they're not spreading it to their parents. There's no excuse not to open the schools, send the kids back. We were saluting the courageous healthcare workers. How about the teachers get some of that courage and go back to work and teach the next generation?
Hey, easy with picking on the teachers there. Our teachers are going back to work.
I'm inspiring them. I'm not picking on them.
My wife is dying to go back to work. She's ready to go back. Everybody wants to. I think collectively, all of us, at some point down the road, we have to have a mask burning celebration. One day when that can happen. But Heidi, I think that we also we have to agree that when things do come up, nobody has all the answers, and I don't want to hold people responsible for it or blame people. I just want to find the solutions. I'd like to get down the road because this is the only way we're going to be able to get back to work. Okay, we tried that. Maybe that didn't work. Okay, let's try something else.
Yeah, you, me, and everybody else. We want the solutions, right? And it would be great if they could be easy. It would be great if they could be cost effective. It would be great if they would help to move this whole situation forward. I'm almost tired of hearing about, new normals and so forth, but it's just the fact of the matter. So hopefully we'll be able to, teach our kids what's really going on here. That's the hard part too, isn't it? Because it's not necessarily only about going to school and whether or not it's safe, because that sounds super scary. There might be some other things here at play, and so we have to be careful to provide them with the full context and really help them to be critical thinkers in all of this and continue to ask questions about what will happen if.
Yes, and what I wonder is what example we're setting also, because this is a big problem that we're confronted with as adults. And I think, Curtis, it's a great opportunity to show children this is how we're going to deal with it. We've got about 30 seconds.
Right, and one of the things we have to teach our children is courage, right? There is no absolute safety and certainty in life. You could get hit by lightning,
That's
you
right.
could get hit by a truck, but we say our prayers and we face the danger, we do what's right, we do it smart, and we will prevail. This country was built by people who were courageous and went out and knew there was danger, but knew that anything worth having is worth facing the danger for.
Well, yeah, that shining city on the
Absolutely.
hill. We can be part of that again. Jason Meister, Curtis Ellis, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us. Coming back, we will have more to talk about on American Agenda.